this is Pat. The CDC has recommended that we all wear masks out in public. And so I've been looking at the different ways of making masks, and I have a few that I'd like to share with you. So let's talk about fabric. You probably have some fabric in your house. Spare pillowcases or even cloth napkins can be used. If you took the indigo dyeing class last year, you probably have some samples where you tried different things, or you might have a bandana. Bandanas are woven pretty loosely, and so the CDC is recommending that if you use a bandana, you also use a coffee filter. The first one doesn't require any sewing of any kind. What I'd like to do today is use a scrap of fabric. It is more oblong than it is square. It is also not finished on any side. So you can see that it's just something I had left over. To do this, you will either need rubber bands or ponytail holders. And it's very simple to do. Put your fabric down so that the longest side is going to cover your face. And you also put it so that the wrong side is up. You then fold your fabric into thirds, bringing these sides into the middle. Doesn't have to be even, but if you can do it evenly, that's great. So both sides are in the middle, and then you bring those folds together. This will cover your mouth and nose. So what we do now is we take a rubber band, we put it on the end, bring it in because you could see that was pretty long. I didn't need it that long. Fold it over and then put it on your ear so you can see exactly how long you need to make this. So right about there, I take it back off. I add my finger where the fold should go. I fold it over. I put my other rubber band on. And then this will fit my face. When you wear the mask out in public, it is important that you take them off by the straps over your ears. Try not to touch the mask because any pollutants will be on the outside and you will transfer it to your fingers or whatever you touch. You should only wear it once and then it should be washed. That's very important. This next pattern is my very favorite, and you can get the pattern at the link below. You will need to cut 4 pieces. It doesn't have to be the same fabric. You can make a reversible mask. I have made this by sewing and also with hot glue. This mask was made with hot glue for the most part. There's a seam down the middle, and here is an example of one that is sewn. On most of these, I have used fusible non-woven interfacing. It is an iron-on interfacing, and it gives stiffness to your mask so that it maintains its shape. The middle seam is curved, and so when you sew it or hot glue it together, to get it to form that curve, you must cut the seam down to where the sewing or the hot glue goes. When I did the hot glue, I put hot glue on both sides and then I placed them together and ironed it. I put a piece of fabric over it so the glue would not get on my iron. When you have it like this and you haven't yet sewn the other side, it is possible that you can paint it. So on this one, I decided to paint it like Picasso would have. On this mask that I used the hot glue on. It's been to the wash twice and the glue has stayed together. Now on the sides, I sewed it because this is where you put in your elastic, if you have it, usually about 7 inches. So you can do it that way, or you can take any kind of tie fabric and put that on, and it can be tied around your head. If you don't have any string or cording, you can use shoelaces. So there's always something you can use, or you can make your own out of the fabric. There's one other thing that I should mention. When you're putting this together, you may want something to fit around your nose. So in this one, I used a pipe cleaner. They do sell the bendable wire that can be used for it, or you can use a bread tie. It's the same thing. Just you need to place it in before you do the last top stitching around here. So this is another type of mask, and it's pretty easy to make. Usually you will cut fabric that is about 7 or 8 inches wide, and it will be about 15 inches long. You then sew the ends together, leaving a 2 or 3 inch gap in the center. That is so that you can turn the fabric around. Normally you would go ahead and stitch the sides here. I'm not going to do that now because I want to show you the next step, which is really the way that you get these folds in here. I also must tell you that you don't have to do 15 inches. You could do 8 inches by 8 inches and cut 2 pieces, which is what I did on this one, so that I could have 2 different fabrics on the same one. Let's go back to this one. I'm going to turn the fabric right side out, going through that hole that you left in the middle. And we will pretend that we have already stitched the ends together. Let your folds come down. This opening also allows you to put in a filter if you would like to, like with the coffee filter. You are going to need a ruler and some pins. The next step is to mark the fabric for folds in the mask. I have already done the right side, and I will show you what we do on the left side. They should match. So my first pin goes in 1.25 inches down from the top. The second pin goes in 1 inch. Then we leave a 1/2 inch gap. Then we go back to 1 inch, 1/2 inch gap, and then once again to 1 inch. What you do now is you fold the fabric so that the 2 pins, the one on the right and the one on the left at the top, form a nice fold. You can iron it, or you could just rub it. This fold comes down to touch the next pin. You may then take your pin out and pin that so the fold is in place. It has to go through all the fabric, not just the top layers. You then leave the 1/2 inch and you take the bottom pin and you bring it down to the next pin. All right, you're going to leave 1/2 inch. Fold it between the pins and bring it down. So you now have all your folds in place. And the last thing that you would do is to attach elastic or some type of cording so that you can hold your mask in place. Nice, easy mask to make. The last mask I want to talk about is one that I got out of the Washington Post, and you can see the link below. I made this one. This is from the Indigo Dyeing class, and I like to have the oval right in the middle. It is also reversible. It is not a very difficult pattern, but since I made this one, I have modified the way that I'm making this pattern. And that is, I didn't see the point of making all these little adjustments. It's much easier to sew in a smooth line. So when I cut this black one, I cut it so that it is nice and even and is much easier to sew. In the middle there are 2 darts, one much bigger than the other one. This allows you to fit it over your nose and your chin, making it come out into a point. I did use the interfacing on the center of this because it will give shape. And what is planned for this one is that it will be painted because it's a nice plain background. And to test that out, we did use the Scribbles paint, and on a separate piece we tried out a pattern. So we will go ahead and paint this piece, have it dry, and then when it's dry we will put the second part together. And again, you could use a hot glue gun or stitch around it. I would sew the bottom and the top and then put on whatever kind of cording or elastic you want to hold it in place. This is a fairly large mask, and so you may want to adjust it. If I hold it up to my face, you will see that it is very covering. And even with 5/8 of an inch seam, which is the normal seam, it is going to be large. This one is finished, and there we go. All right. And I believe that is all the mask making that I have done.